Dodger Stadium has witnessed some of the most memorable moments in baseball history. But nothing could have prepared the tens of thousands of fans inside that iconic ballpark for what they were about to witness on this particular night. In a scene that unfolded so quickly and so violently that many people in the stands could barely process what they were seeing, Boston Red Sox outfielder Jarren Duran became the center of one of the most shocking and disturbing incidents in recent baseball memory. What started as a competitive game between two powerhouse franchises erupted into a full-scale brawl that emptied both dugouts, stunned the entire stadium, and left the baseball world completely speechless. When the Dodgers and Red Sox met at Dodger Stadium, the atmosphere was already charged with intensity. These are two of the most storied franchises in baseball history, and whenever they share the same field, the stakes feel elevated beyond a regular season game. Fans had packed the stadium to capacity, and the energy inside the ballpark was electric from the very first pitch. But nobody, not the players, not the coaches, not the tens of thousands of fans in the seats, could have imagined that before the night was over, Jarren Duran would be at the center of an assault on Shohei Ohtani that would be replayed on screens around the world for days to come. What exactly did Jarren Duran do that shocked an entire stadium into silence? How did the brawl start and how far did it escalate? What did manager Dave Roberts say when he addressed the media afterward? And what consequences is Duran now facing following one of the most disturbing on-field incidents in recent memory? Every single answer has only deepened the outrage that is currently sweeping through the entire baseball world. The game itself had been intensely competitive from the opening inning. Both teams came out with aggression and purpose, and the back-and-forth nature of the contest had the crowd completely engaged. Shohei Ohtani, as he so often does, had made his presence felt early. His first at-bat produced a towering drive that had the entire stadium on its feet, and his energy on the base paths was giving the Red Sox defense serious problems throughout the early innings. Jarren Duran had also been active and visible throughout the game. The Red Sox outfielder is known for his speed, his competitiveness, and his willingness to play with an edge. But there is a difference between playing with an edge and doing what Duran did on this night. And what he did on this night crossed every line that exists in professional baseball. The moment that changed everything came in the fifth inning. Ohtani had reached base and was moving aggressively on the base paths, as he always does. As the play developed and Ohtani moved toward the next base, Duran, who had positioned himself in the path of the Japanese superstar, made a decision that nobody on that field or in that stadium could justify. Instead of making a baseball play, instead of doing anything that could be remotely connected to the legitimate competition of the sport, Duran launched himself directly at Ohtani with a force and an intent that immediately made clear this was not an accident. The collision was immediate, explosive, and deeply shocking. Ohtani absorbed the full force of Duran's assault and went down hard onto the field. The sound of the impact was audible throughout large sections of the stadium, and for a split second, the entire ballpark went completely silent. Nobody could believe what they had just witnessed. Then, in the very next moment, everything exploded at once. Players from the Dodgers dugout poured onto the field with a speed and intensity that reflected the fury they felt at seeing their teammate targeted so violently. Freddie Freeman was among the first to reach the scene, and eyewitnesses described him as visibly furious in a way that those who know him well said they had rarely seen before. Mookie Betts, always composed and always measured, was seen shouting with an anger that left no doubt about how seriously he was taking what had just happened to Ohtani. The Red Sox players came onto the field as well, and within seconds the situation had escalated into a full-scale brawl that required every umpire on the field, multiple coaches from both teams, and stadium security personnel to bring under control. Players were grabbing, shoving, and in several cases had to be physically separated by multiple people at once. The crowd inside Dodger Stadium was in a state of absolute chaos, with noise levels reaching a peak that reflected the disbelief and fury of tens of thousands of witnesses. Coaches and veteran players eventually managed to restore a degree of order, but the tension that remained on the field after the brawl was subdued was unlike anything most people in that stadium had ever experienced at a baseball game. Both dugouts remained heated, with players continuing to exchange words across the field long after the physical confrontation had been brought under control. The umpires gathered immediately following the incident and began the process of determining what had occurred and what consequences were appropriate. It did not take long. Multiple umpires had clear sightlines to Duran's actions, and the conclusion they reached was unanimous and immediate. Jarren Duran was ejected from the game without any hesitation or discussion. Several other players from both teams who had been involved in the brawl received ejections as well, but it was Duran's ejection that drew the loudest and most sustained reaction from the crowd. Duran was visibly resistant to leaving the field. He argued loudly with the umpires, gesturing and raising his voice in a way that only added to the chaos of the moment. His manager came out to manage the situation, but even his presence could do little to calm Duran down quickly. It took several minutes and significant effort from multiple people before Duran finally made his way off the field and into the Red Sox clubhouse, leaving behind a stadium that was still buzzing with shock and outrage. Sources close to the umpiring crew revealed afterward that the ejection of Duran had been one of the easiest and most clear-cut decisions any of them had made in their careers. According to reports, the crew chief described what Duran had done as an unambiguous assault that had no place in professional baseball under any circumstances. He said that the safety of every player on that field was the umpire's highest responsibility and that protecting Ohtani from further harm had been the immediate priority the moment the incident occurred. The medical staff from the Dodgers rushed onto the field the moment Ohtani went down, and for several agonizing minutes, the attention of everyone inside Dodger Stadium was focused entirely on the condition of the Japanese superstar. Players from both teams stood nearby in silence as the training staff worked quickly and carefully to assess Ohtani's situation. The competitive nature of the game was completely forgotten in those moments. The only thing that mattered was whether Ohtani was okay. Freddie Freeman said afterward that those minutes felt like the longest of his career. He said he stood there watching the medical staff work and felt completely helpless, unable to do anything except wait and hope. Freeman said that the sight of Ohtani on the ground after what Duran had done to him was something he would not forget for a very long time, and that the emotion he felt in that moment went far beyond anything connected to a baseball game. After what felt like an eternity to everyone watching, Ohtani slowly began to move. He worked with the medical staff to assess his condition, and after several careful minutes, he was helped to his feet. The entire stadium rose as one and gave him an ovation that shook the ballpark. Despite the seriousness of what he had just been through, Ohtani initially indicated that he wanted to stay in the game. However, the Dodgers medical staff ultimately made the cautious decision to remove him from the lineup for the remainder of the night, prioritizing his health and safety above all else. Manager Dave Roberts faced the media after the game with an expression that reflected everything his players and his fans were feeling. He did not mince words. He did not try to soften what had happened or frame it in diplomatic language. He said directly and clearly that what Jarren Duran had done to Shohei Ohtani was an assault. Not a baseball play. Not an accident. An assault. And he said that the Dodgers organization expected Major League Baseball to respond with consequences that matched the severity of what the entire baseball world had just witnessed. Roberts said that his first concern was for Ohtani's health and that the medical staff was monitoring him closely following the incident. He said that a full evaluation would be completed and that the organization would provide an update on Ohtani's condition as soon as one was available. He made it clear that the health of his player was the absolute priority and that everything else, including the result of the game itself, was secondary to making sure Ohtani was okay. Roberts also addressed the brawl directly, acknowledging that emotions had run extremely high and that he understood completely why his players had reacted the way they did. He said that when your teammate is targeted in the way Ohtani was targeted, the response from the people around him is a reflection of the love and respect they have for him. He said he was proud of the way his players stood up for each other while also making clear that the organization fully supported whatever disciplinary measures MLB chose to impose. Andrew Friedman released a statement on behalf of the Dodgers organization that left no room for ambiguity. He said that the actions of Jarren Duran were completely unacceptable and that the Dodgers were formally requesting that Major League Baseball conduct a thorough and immediate investigation into the incident. He said that the organization expected the league to impose a suspension that sent an unmistakable message to every player in baseball about what would and would not be tolerated on a major league field. The reaction from across the baseball world was swift, unified, and overwhelming. Former players, Hall of Famers, analysts, and commentators spoke with one voice, condemning what Duran had done and demanding serious consequences. Several prominent figures in the sport described the incident as one of the most disturbing things they had ever seen on a baseball field. Social media was flooded within minutes of the story breaking, with the clip of the incident viewed hundreds of millions of times and the demand for Duran's suspension trending across every major platform.